We're live, folks.
We are live.
Hello. Albert, maybe you can come up here. I don't know where it is. All right. Good evening. My name is Bill Matsakudis, and great to see you here tonight to talk about the future of affordable housing in Jersey City, and specifically with regard to County Plaza. We have an agenda we're going to be following tonight, and we're going to kick it off with our Hudson County Executive, Craig Guy, who's going to say a few words to get us started.
Good evening. Thank you. And thank you for having me, Councilman Zuppa. Thank you to the General Square Association. This is part of our listening tour. We're going to go out on the road, and we want to listen to our community. During my campaign, now it's a couple of years ago, and prior to that, we've all been hearing the same thing. I think everybody in this room has heard it 1,000 times. We have to make Hudson County, we got to make Jersey City more affordable. And to do that, there's some bold moves that need to be taken. But there's also a very, what I think is an extremely well thought and put together plan, led by our team of Bill Matsakudis, who you just heard from. Joe Wax is somewhere in the house. Joe Wax, my senior advisor. And Bill will present this plan, folks. But, it's important that we understand that if we don't do something to make housing more affordable, we're going to be in this cycle that pretty soon every one of us will be driven out of Jersey City. I want to take that struggle, I want to take it on. Working with Councilman Zuppa and Mayor Solomon as we progress through this plan, we've heard some different ideas. I want to hear the public's opinion. I want to hear the public's ideas. We met with Assemblywoman Brennan. I'm sure Bill can go down a list of other both electeds and civic leaders, community leaders that have heard this plan. We have several sites in mind that are on county-owned land. In fact, I think if anybody's read or heard in the last month or so, Governor Sherrill signed a plan, signed an order to plan to develop state-owned land that's underutilized for affordable workforce, market rate housing. I kid the governor, I saw her Monday night, that, she stole our idea. And by the way, it's one heck of an idea. We have this underutilized county land. And the one that we're here to talk about specifically tonight is the one off of Cornelius Avenue, where our plaza, our big government plaza, the old block drug, as some people will refer to it, that have been around for a while. And if anybody knows that property, they see it as a big, pretty much a big building which houses a bunch of our county workforces. And then we have surface parking that is just outdated. We have a lot of our employees that park there, but that land is just so valuable and so underutilized. There had to be a better use of that land. And with my team, we've come to a plan that we need to build some housing. We also need to build some parking, build in some parking over there, because we all know in Jersey City especially, parking is it's a problem. People work late at night, they come home and there's no parking. They park too close to the corner and they wake up in the morning and have summonses, right? So along with the councilman, again, we're short term, we're trying to devise a couple of plans, and we have to check some of the legalities of allowing residents to park free on our county-owned properties after work hours and possibly on the weekends too. We do have to check on some liability factors there to make sure that insurance-wise we're good. But to go back to the Cornelius Avenue property, that is a huge property, and I think best served the community to build some mixed housing over there. And again, the important piece is to include a parking deck, parking decks, and also, with a penchant to have some commercial within that site, and have some open space, have some green space, have some leisure, comfort space that people can utilize and relax, and along with and I know we've all spoken about it, and we're going to have some great news come out between myself and Mayor Solomon and the Councilman come out soon about our general square, we'll call it the Courthouse Park. We're going to have some news, coming out on the timeline of that. So I'm very satisfied, or not satisfied because I liked it done yesterday, but very happy that we've made some progress. So I would ask you to look at this very much needed project that Bill and his team will put forth. Please ask any questions, any concerns, any ideas. No pride of authorship here. That's why we will be talking to people along this road. And I see one of our representatives of labor here. We are big labor. We're a big labor county. And I know the councilman is a big labor councilman. All these projects that we undertake will be done with union labor. So it's going to be folks, men and women that work in your communities, men and women that reinvest in your communities, that are going to be working on their projects, and thus reinvesting in our businesses around Jersey City. So I'm proud to be a leader, in this effort. The partnership, I couldn't do this without partners, and look forward to hearing from you guys. So thank you for having us tonight.
Good evening. Appreciate the county executive for his kind words and leadership on this issue. Of course, I'm Tom Zuppa. I represent Ward C, where this project is located, the Journal Square area. Also McKinley Square and the Lower Heights for Ward C. For too long, Ward C has lagged behind the rest of the city in terms of resources allocated, attention from some of our city officials, and today is a good sign that that's no more. We've lagged behind on affordable housing, on infrastructure, on retail, on community, and many residents have begged the question is what with all the high rises going on, what was the benefit of the Renaissance for our current residents? Again, that question is answered today. Very much appreciate County Executive Craig Guy and his team for their leadership on this particular issue. And this meeting is the first of many community meetings to discuss get community input, your voice heard on what goes on county property at County Plaza. And we know that there are many underutilized parking lots at that site, and this is a first step to build housing and to put in commercial space, retail for our community, and also some parking that's going to be better utilized for our residents. I know that the county executive and his team are working on that. So I look forward to this conversation. A lot of the housing we've seen was also not built with prevailing wage or union labor. We've had horrendous labor violations throughout Journal Square. That also ends today, and this particular project, and will as you heard, will be built with prevailing wage. We know it'll be built on time. It'll be built well, and it'll be built with for workers who are supportive of our middle class, making sure they have quality health care, quality wage for the work they're doing. I'll be here throughout the presentation to answer any questions. Again, this is the first of many community meetings. But thank you again to Craig for his leadership, for Bill for the presentation, and I look forward to seeing what is the result of your feedback as we build affordable housing, build retail, and build essentially a new community down at County Plaza. Thank you.
All right, so let's get into this. We have a little presentation here. You saw the agenda, and let's talk about that. I'm going to give some overview about what the county executive's talking about, the Hudson County Affordable Housing Initiative, and then we're going to zero in on County Plaza, and we're going to hear from the team that's putting together the plan for the development there. And we'll walk through and talk through what that means. First, let's talk about what Craig, County Executive, said as far as the dire need that we have for affordable housing in Hudson County and in the city of Jersey City. We have a substantial amount of people who are cost burdened. That means they're paying more than 30% of their income on housing. And we saw how much Jersey City prices have gone up. We've seen how it's become the 5th highest rent in the country, depending upon whose statistics you look at. But 60% of the people in Jersey City making $90,000 or less are cost burdened when it comes to paying for their housing. So there's a desperate need for affordable housing. That is housing that's capped for certain incomes and also capped on what the rent will be. The little basis, a background on how affordable housing is determined. It's basically two things, right? You are capping the amount, you're limiting certain units to certain incomes, and then you're capping the amount of money that that person will pay for their rent. So, and it's all done through area median income in Hudson County. For one person, it's about $90,000, $89,000. For a family of four, $127,000. And to be considered affordable, you can only charge that person 30% of their income in rent. So for a family of four, you're talking 30% of $127,000 for a year. There's a huge income disparity in Hudson County and Jersey City. We've got 20% of the people who live in Jersey City that are doing quite well, making like over $200,000 a year. And then you have 20% of the population that is basically struggling with poverty. So any housing plan that we come up with here that tries to address the inequity in income has to be cognizant of the fact that there's a lot of people that are struggling and that the higher end income people are helping to drive some of those rents up. There's basically, even outside of affordable housing, a housing shortage in Hudson County. It might be hard to believe when you see all the housing going up, but in the metropolitan area, there's no doubt about it, a housing shortage. The Regional Plan Association says that there's a need for another like 30,000 plus units in the coming years. And when you think about it, I tell people to look back around the time when my mother was born in Jersey City, 1933. The 1930 census in Jersey City had 316,000 people, and the last census in Jersey City had 292,000 people. So we still have less people in the city than we did almost 100 years ago. There's 4 places in Hudson County where the county owns land that we're seeking to develop affordable housing. They all happen to be in Jersey City. They all happen to be in Councilman Zuppa's ward, Ward C. One of them is really close by, Bergen Square, right down the block here behind the Hudson County Improvement Authority building, which used to be the Provident Bank headquarters back in the day, a furniture store. But we're here today to talk about Corneliuson Avenue. All of these different locations are moving forward pursuant to different timelines. Some of them are more challenging than others because of land assemblage. In other words, to make it work, we really need to acquire the land nearby. So those processes are being undertaken right now. But County Plaza is something that we're moving forward with as we speak, and that's what we're doing here tonight. There's a little picture of County Plaza, colored in compared to the surrounding neighborhood. You can see the building that used to be Block Drug, as the county executive said. That building was a pharmaceutical headquarters for many years. The county acquired it, renovated it, remodeled it, and made it into an office complex for county employees. There's more than 1,000 county employees there. They all park, and some of the visitors, because we have a lot of important offices there, ranging from the Board of Elections to welfare and Medicaid applications. So a lot of the public goes there. There is a public bus stop there. But you see all of this is all surface parking. County executive talked about how big it is. The blue is the area that the county owns. The red is some of the area where we're going to look at making a redevelopment plan. We'll talk about what that is, which is not owned by the county. And you can see it's pretty substantial. It's like almost 13 acres. It's a weird topography. We will hear a little bit more about that. If you picture yourself going up Montgomery Street from downtown to Journal Square, you basically go over Corneliuson on a bridge, and Corneliuson goes into the front of this County Plaza building. So we're talking about what we're gonna do with these parking lots. Surface parking lots are not good. They create a lot of deleterious effects on society. They create floods, they create a heat island effect. And you could accomplish the parking that if you need to go one for one on a fraction of the land with a vertical building than you can via surface parking. One of the innovative things we're committed to doing here, for a lot of reasons, is to do what we're calling social housing. And we just had County Commissioner Uriah Lipsky come on in. Hello there, welcome.
Thank you.
And what we mean by that is government financed, government owned housing, quality housing for all. Now, that doesn't mean we're gonna manage it. We would contract the management just like many private developers do. But by building it ourselves, we can accomplish things quickly. We can do it more cost effectively because our bonding is better interest rates than private developers get on the market. We can control the process to dictate what kind of buildings we want there, and what other kind of uses we want there, whether it's retail, whether it's open space, schools, what have you. And we're talking about mixed income housing, housing for all that cuts across all economic stratuses. You know, we're not going to have economic segregation that we've seen in the past where there's concentrations of poverty. When you have mixed income, it has a lot of benefits. You know, one of the things is it tends to drive better amenities into the community. The market rate rents will help for better upkeep, and it tends to eliminate the stigma that's often associated with affordable housing. So one of the reasons we're here tonight is because we have to change the zoning for this area. In other words, what the legal regulations allow to be built. You can see the zoning that governs this is a mishmash of different types of zoning. Some of it's industrial, there's not much industrial development going on in that area. Some of it's governed by a redevelopment plan that was promulgated 50 years ago that's no longer effective by its own terms. So we're here tonight as part of a process to come up with a plan that would basically state what can be built there. And then we're gonna follow through to get it built. This is accomplished via a series of steps. The city of Jersey City will ultimately have to pass a law, basically called the redevelopment plan. And we here at the Hudson County Improvement Authority, where I'm the general counsel of that entity, and we're spearheading this effort, are going to work with the city to come up with that redevelopment plan. And part of that process is tonight is to hearing what you, as the community, thinks is good for the area. And as Councilman Zuppa said, there'll be other meetings to get further input. The Jersey City Master Plan, which is the document that the city publishes every so often to talk about what the development priorities of the city are, has mentioned that this is a prime area for redevelopment. It's totally underutilized and could be leveraged for some very beneficial things, ranging from housing to open space and better connectivity. It kind of cuts off a variety of communities. And one of the last things is, if you are from Jersey City, you know that for many, many years, across the street from County Plaza, there was public housing called Montgomery Gardens. And that was announced 60 years ago with great fanfare, and ultimately most of it was demolished. And I look at that and I say, we don't want to make the same mistakes of the past. We don't want to do something that in 20 or 30 years, people look at it and say, oh God, that's an eyesore, that's a blight on our community. So we want to do something that is different than this. So we're not going to segregate only low-income people into these buildings. We're not going to build buildings that are ugly and repetitive, red brick geometric buildings that you can see in every single housing project around the country. And of course, other ones were demolished in Jersey City, A. Harry Moore, Curry's Woods. We're going to have better upkeep, and we're going to have better amenities and a much better community for everyone. That's our goal. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jay Valgora from Studio V. Jay and I have worked together in the past. He's got a great team he'll talk about. He's also got with him tonight Jeff Wenger, who was the city planner for Jersey City for many years. And Jay is an architect and an urban planner, and I'll let him sing his own praises. But we're lucky to have him on board to help us come about this plan. Come on up, Jay.
All
All right, thank you very much, Bill. Is that okay? Can you hear?
Yeah.
First of all, I'm going to talk a little bit, but I kind of want to hear you guys talk too. So I'm going to try to go through this pretty quick because I'm not here to show you a design. I'm not here to sell you on something. I'm here to listen. And as part of that, I guess, just to set the stage, I really want to show you what we're thinking about. But we are at the beginning. We're at the stage where we want to hear what the community has to say. I need to learn from people who live in the neighborhood, who live in the areas around here. So that's my purpose in being here today. So I'm going to try to show you some stuff, but nothing is set, nothing is baked. And I look forward to that. And even afterwards, I'm hoping we can just talk a little bit. Those of you who would like to hang around and talk, and we can even look at some of the drawings and things we've got. We can get your feedback and input because I would like to learn tonight what you're looking for in your community. Our mandate here, as you heard from the county executive, as you heard from the councilman, as you heard from Bill, is to do housing and maybe retail and parking. But there's also other things like open space and green areas and what kind of retail and what are you looking for. And so as an architect and planner with Studio V, and I'm here with my partner, Kathy Chan. I'm here with Wo Wu, my senior designer. I'm here with Jeff, as Bill mentioned, who's a great planner who's worked in Jersey City for years. We need to hear from you before we can figure out what this whole thing looks like. So that's my goal tonight. I just want to put that out there right up front. And then I'm going to take you through a little bit about what we're thinking about, but then I'm hoping we can just start talking a little too, okay? So without further ado, let's go into it. So, I gotta click it. Okay, so first, I'm just gonna go through this quickly, but I began by saying like, what are great examples of public spaces in Jersey City? So I was actually looking at like some of the neighborhoods that are successful. These are different neighborhoods, these aren't your neighborhood. But I looked at like Van Vorst, and it's kind of cool because traditionally it just has these open spaces. It's got these green areas. So before I start talking about housing, I kind of wanted to talk about the public spaces where people gather. So I love the fact that this is a beautiful square. It's about 86,000 square feet. It's got mature trees. Historically, it was actually part of how Jersey City grew up. It's kind of a beautiful neighborhood. Whoops. It's not your neighborhood, but I thought maybe we could create something like this in this neighborhood. So we're going to build housing, but I kind of start by thinking like, what if we created open space and greenery and places for kids to run and play? And, you know, is that a possibility? And maybe we build a neighborhood around that where these parking lots are. We're not taking anyone out of their homes. We're not kicking anyone out. As Bill said, we're taking parking lots and trying to make it into more of a community and a neighborhood. So this is just one example. I'm going to show a couple. Hamilton Square, you guys all know these because like you're here, but I tried to pick local examples. So Hamilton Square is a beautiful neighborhood. It's got smaller scaled elements around it. It's got beautiful amenities with a central lawn, trees, playgrounds. Like I was just interested in this as an example. These are the historic photos. And something that's kind of nice is whenever you have these public spaces, it creates continuity within a neighborhood, creates a sense of place, creates value, brings folks together. So this is something I'm interested in. Oops, and you can even see in the recent ones, both from the past and from today, these can be beautiful spaces. So I'm just showing a couple of them. And then I've got Sierra Green. This is a different example because I've got to do parking, but it's possible to even do parking underneath an open space. This is a park, actually, this one's in Philadelphia, but it's full of people, it's full of activities. It actually has some, excuse me, grade change or topography, because you know in this neighborhood, like there's hills and so forth, I gotta work that out. But that's an opportunity to put parking below and open space above. So I'm gonna show you just some preliminary ideas, just the beginning. So this is the site. And I've got site one here.
You want to take it out of the stand?
Let me take it out. I've got site one right over here. So this is south of the building. I've got Cornelison Avenue over here and Mill Road here. Montgomery is the major connection here. So this is one of the biggest sites. And that's one of the opportunities. There's pretty significant grade change here between this side over by the Colony and this side over here by McKinley. But that's one of the biggest sites and opportunities. And Cornelison is kind of right up the middle. I've got site two. It's on the east side of the county building. And that one is also a big opportunity. You can see it's this kind of funny shape here, right? But those are the two biggest ones. So this one is kind of the gravel parking lot. It's here and it extends to here. Here's where Cornelison goes under Montgomery, as you heard Bill describe. And then site two extends over here. And on this side, this neighborhood, a lot of people call it the Colony, but Wayne Street comes in, and actually Mercer Loop comes in over here, right? Then I've got site 3. It's this kind of funny triangular site, but I'm trying to create the value in each of them, and they go around the county building. So I've got this site over here. Site 4 kind of goes back up into the hill. You got that part where the Palisades comes out. It extends up there over, it even extends up towards Journal Square and towards Hilltop, right? And so this part here, I've got this little bit of land here. And then finally I've got site 5. Even if you're in the neighborhood, this one's kind of hard to see because it's kind of that industrial area back there. It's just in front of the island, and it actually is on the way up into Journal Square, and it's over here in front of the island, and there's a whole bunch of like sort of industrial uses there. And you've got the Port Authority kind of facilities over here, and those are staying, but that site is also part of it. So these are the sites, and it's pretty challenging. These are kind of tough sites, and yet we got a couple of ideas, and I'm kind of excited about it. So I'm just gonna show you, these are just thoughts. These are kind of sketches, if you will. So nothing is decided. But the first thing I thought of is, after we looked at those parks and open spaces, I started to think, what if we created a bunch of little town squares? Now here's the County Plaza building, so we're leaving that. It has a little plaza in front of it, here, a little green space. And then I thought maybe we take on this side of Corneliuson and we create a little town square. And maybe on this side over here, and it's kind of in between actually Mercer and Florence, we create a second little town square. And maybe we put the housing around that. We put the parking inside the building, wrap it with housing. We want to put some retail. I'm going to be asking you later about retail, what kind of retail you're interested in. Because, you know, I think a little bit of retail here would help in the neighborhood too. And so we started by saying maybe there's 2 little squares here, and they kind of wrap around Corneliuson. And then up here, maybe there's some other building sites over here. And then maybe we could even put a parking garage down low, maybe put a park or a green roof on top. So these are just some of the ideas, very, very early, right? So I'm just kind of starting to show it to you. And then this one actually shows a second idea. So this is a different scheme, because we haven't designed it yet. We're just kind of sketching it. This one shows doing maybe a bigger park here. So I'm going to go back and contrast them for you. But this one shows, what if I do a bigger park on this side of Corneliuson, wrap it with housing, and then do some lower scale buildings around it like that, and extend this out. And I put parking in the base, and I put setback areas on both sides. So it's a little bit bigger. Maybe it's a little bit more like Van Horst or Hamilton. So I could do smaller squares, or I could maybe do one slightly bigger one, which I'm thinking might be kind of cool, might sort of unify the neighborhood. And then up here, I'm showing some buildings again, maybe some parking below with a park on top. I'm thinking I'd love to create a green connection along the edge there that goes all the way up into Journal Square. That would just be a pedestrian connection. There's other developments planned up here, and they're already planning on putting some pedestrian walkways. So I want to connect into everything, because my whole goal is to kind of connect neighborhoods, to connect together to Montgomery, to connect together with McGinley or Journal Square or the Colony, to actually make connections and walkways between communities and to create open space where people can get together. So these are just some 3D drawings. We take these computers and we kind of model like what the whole city looks like. So you can see these sites are empty. Here's the county building. Here's the Beacon. Journal Square is up this way. These buildings here aren't built yet, but they're planned. They're by other folks. So I'm just showing them because they're actually going through a public approval process right now. So they're not ours, but they're probably going to be there. So that's something that's happening. So this just shows the empty parking lots. Here's my site 1, site 2, 3, and 4. And here's that site 5 up here back by the island, right? So that's what it looks like today. Here it is with my first scheme, that first sketch. Again, nothing fixed yet, but you notice here's a little square here. Here's a little square here. This one kind of connects in with Florence and Mercer. There's some grade change there. I could put parking below it. That might be a nice little park. And I put a second one over here. This one kind of connects into Wayne Street. And I think that could be kind of nice. And they're on either side of Corneliuson. So I like that it kind of creates a little open space in each one there. This is my little esplanade in the future. Maybe going up along the Palisades, just a pedestrian walkway up into Journal Square. So this is just again, an idea. And then here's the next one. I thought maybe I'd do a bigger park here. Maybe I do one of them instead of 2 and make that the center of the neighborhood. Notice I'm doing kind of lower scale stuff. I'm doing some slightly taller buildings. I will tell you these buildings are still smaller than the buildings around. They're lower than the Beacon. They're lower than the stuff planned in Journal Square. And I think I could still build hundreds of units of housing. And as Bill said, and the council members said, and the county executive, like, I'm doing a mixture of housing. It's gonna have, all different kinds of folks, because I think that's important. We want diversity of different kinds of people. That's how we do affordable housing and make it work well. And I didn't say much in the beginning, but in the past, I've built thousands of units of housing throughout the tri-state area, in Jersey City, in New York, in Pennsylvania, in Connecticut. So I would really welcome the chance to create something special here, and I'm looking to do something special for you all. So this is where we are. And then I could give you more information on the timeline, but I'm gonna kind of stop talking soon. And I'd love to go around and just talk to you folks. I'd like to answer your questions first. And then we can go around the room and we set up these boards here where we can just talk. And we even have things like stickers where you can pick things like, what kind of things are you looking for in your neighborhood? What sort of retail? What kind of community facilities do you want? Do you want a playground or a dog run? Or because we can start to plan those things into it, because I build those all the time and design them. But I can't do it until I hear from you all. And I'm gonna be talking to other people too over the next several weeks with this timeline. So the whole idea is that we're really looking to actually take our time and do a design and talk to people over the next several months and do a bunch of these meetings here. And then we're hoping to build a redevelopment plan and designate it. And then we can go forward and actually start to make this a reality. So we're just at the beginning of that process. And that's where we are today. So without further ado, I would be happy to answer any questions you've got. And more importantly, I'd love to hear from you and just talk with you.
All right, so,
If they have
want me to be the end?
Yeah, to be
So
the
I'll,
dog.
maybe I'll help field the questions. Is this microphone working? It was.
Albert.
Hello. So I can answer, I could start by picking people out of the audience if you raise your hand and have any questions. Just a real quick, hey here, how are you? A real quick note, thing about what this notion of social housing is. We're not the first ones to talk about it. And one of the inspirations that we're getting this from is some other places. Far from home, Vienna, Austria has been doing this for like 100 years, where nearly 50% of the people live in government financed, government-owned housing for all. In other words, wealthy, middle class, and lower income people living in the same building, no stigma attached, very vibrant, tremendous housing. Closer to home, Montgomery County, Maryland is a model of this that's been working quite well too, where it's beautiful, high quality housing, 30% affordable. What percent is gonna be affordable? We haven't figured it out yet, 100%, maybe that was gonna be your question. But I didn't say this in the opening remarks. We know we're committed at a minimum of 20. We're looking for more than that, and including some workforce, middle class housing. And I talked about the benefits of having it mixed. So having said that, what's your question?
So something that stood out to me initially was the mention of assemblage, and I feel like I'm allowed to talk.
Yeah, you're good.
I'm curious about the assemblage aspect and what assemblage is going to be needed or required versus what you could build without that assemblage, and what particular buildings you're looking at for assemblage.
So in County Plaza, we don't have to assemble any land. That's one of the benefits of that site. So County Plaza, we don't have to assemble any other properties. The other three that we're looking at all do.
So of the 5 that were on
Four.
there, the 4, yeah, 5.
Oh, you mean 5 sites? 5
yeah,
sites.
of those
all
5
of them owned by the
sites.
county.
But none of those require assemblage.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why we're moving with this one first. Yeah.
I may say it's part of the beauty of the scheme is we're basically taking just surface parking lots, and we're not kicking out any folks, no one's being harmed by this, and we're actually just building housing and public space and parks, and then we're putting parking and we wrap it and put it inside or below grade or in between the houses. So we're also replacing parking too, of course, because we have to make sure that still works, as well as supply new parking for the new residents. But really, we're wrapping it inside by putting the housing around it instead of just surface lots.
Yeah, I mean, look, and as far as parking goes, it's a challenge because it's very expensive. It takes away, space from other things. We have 1,000 workers out there. We're doing a study on how many of them are actually parking their cars out there now. It's less than we thought. We're looking at different creative, innovative ways. Not that innovative, it's been done. He's done it where employees are parking in the day, residents are there at night. ways to reduce the parking footprint. Obviously, Journal Square, for better or worse, has a maximum of a half a space per unit, and developers seem to not be bothered by that. Some members of the committee are, some members aren't. Go ahead, I saw another hand. Yes, sir.
I have two
Sorry,
questions.
just use the mic just so the live stream can hear you.
Phil Donahue.
Hello. Thank you. So two questions. One, if I understood correctly, you mentioned that right now the buildings are low, like shorter than the beacon. And so question one is, are there like air right restrictions, like how high you can actually go? And then two, at least from what I can understand, part of the problem with establishing a community in Journal Square is that a lot of the units being built are like studios and one bedrooms, and it's kind of hard to establish a family. Like, is the thought here that you're also going to build 2-bedroom, for example, apartments?
These are great questions, and I'll start, and Bill, you jump in wherever you want. So first, we're doing what's called a redevelopment plan. So there is a redevelopment plan now. So the answer to your first question, which was like, are there height restrictions or air rights? So we actually are kind of creating the zoning for this neighborhood because the existing zoning is outdated. So in a sense, the reason we're trying to get feedback is we want to get the scale and the density just right. And you can tell it's kind of a push and a pull because we want to create more housing, but we want it to fit in and be the right scale. So we can go bigger and create more housing. But we don't want to go too big where it feels like it's not right and doesn't fit the community. And so what I'm trying to do, and that's what I'm here to get feedback on, is I'm trying to go lower than some of the surrounding buildings, but I'm still trying to build enough housing, because I think we could probably get and I'm not sure of the final number, we could easily get, I think, about 700 units of housing here, and we want to really make a dent. We want to make a difference, so I think we want to get at least that much. I could probably even get a little more. So I'm trying to strike that balance and answer your question, and then we will create the envelopes for the buildings, and I'll follow them, and that'll set the heights. And I'm thinking of lower buildings around the open space. That's one of the things I want to do. Not just everything tall. Like, I think you do lower buildings around the squares, which is an old tradition in Jersey City. That's why I show those examples. But then I can set back some towers, and maybe they're not as tall, 15 stories, 18 stories. I don't know the number yet, so don't quote me yet, because part of what I want to do is hear about that. Your second question was about unit mix. And I have no idea what the unit mix is, so I'm glad you raised it, because I think that I would love to get feedback on that, and I often do get this feedback, because larger units can be great for families. And the answer is we haven't established a unit mix, and so it'd be good to get input from the community on that and what kind of things you all think you need.
I love the question, and that's part of the feedback tonight. So this is something that I think about. We're going to build housing that's not necessarily 100% market driven, right? So if this was strictly market driven, I'm sure there'd be, for one thing, there won't be so many affordable units. We're going to start with that are going to be limited to certain people, certain incomes, and capped at a rent. But yeah, that is, I think, an issue that I've thought about and I've talked about, is we want to try to provide some more family-oriented dwellings, right? That would be more bedrooms. Now, when we have the affordable units, there is a regulatory breakdown about how many have to be 1, 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms. There is a mandatory minimum of 2 bedrooms and even 3 bedrooms. We'll be meeting that at a minimum. What else is there going to be determined, because we have to make sure that it's going to be marketable, right? We don't want these to be money bleeders. We want to be able to finance these things through bonding, and God willing, we have other funding that will be coming in, so that we can pay for the debt service and the operating expenses and not be hemorrhaging money, because guess what? We want to use the excess money to seed the next projects. So want to go to the live stream question first.
Bill, we have a question from Deborah.McWilliams9. Will all of the units be rental only?
So, I love, these are great questions. Not 100% determined. I could tell you this could be a very long philosophical answer. But I would say right now we're geared toward almost definitely, with the great majority, 95% being rental. Why? The issue about home ownership and affordable housing is people tend to want to commodify, i.e. bank, make that like an asset to build wealth, which is a different virtue, a different goal than providing accessible and affordable housing. So if you give someone a home and you say you own it now and you're paying an affordable mortgage, well, when they want to sell it, typically they want to reap the benefit and sell it at a market rate. We've seen that in the Mitchell Lama program, where there was limited dividend co-ops, where people were, paying. It was affordable, capped, but then after years went by, they tried to make it market rate. In Jersey City, we had this 95-5 program. The same thing happened there. So, since the government's going to own this is going to be housing, not a commodity. I think of ownership more as like a commodity investment, and that's a wonderful thing. Makes sense. There could be some there are benefits toward affordable ownership, but we are playing with maybe one area where we could potentially do something like that. But the great majority of it's going to be rental. I think we saw a question over there. Here, what's up, buddy? How are you?
Just have a quick question. Just regarding the land, the.
Mitch, hold on.
Yeah.
We need the mic. We need the mic. Yeah, sorry. Ah, perfect.
Just have a question. Just regarding actually the ownership of the land. You can hear me, right?
Yes.
The ownership of the land, and also who's managing the project. If you can give me just like a quick answer, so I can go to the next question.
Maybe.
Well, the land is owned by.
All that land is owned by Hudson County Improvement Authority right now, which is an autonomous agency of Hudson County, essentially owned by the county. Who's managing the project? This is the county government is, when you say managing, we're the ones who are going to. Let me speak to that. This is an important thing, so I'm going to give you about a minute answer. Is that all right?
No problem. Yeah, go ahead.
So, how are we going to build it? The thinking is, once we come up with the redevelopment plan and we have the contours, the zoning of what can be built, okay? You said air rights. We're making the air rights today. It might be taller than than these initial concepts in certain areas. And then we'll pick one of those sites, or maybe a portion of one of those sites, and we're probably, our thinking right now is to follow a procurement methodology in New Jersey called design build, where we come up with a certain percentage of the design, okay? And then we go out and we solicit proposals from builders and architects to complete it. There's a two-step process, an RFQ, where they have to meet a minimum threshold of competency, and then we do an RFP, where they come up with their final design, their cost, and other aspects of the development. 50% of it is cost, and then we would award a contract and they would build it, and we're gonna pay for it through a combination of bonding and different affordable housing grants, and we're still working, on that aspect of it too. So I hope that made sense.
Definitely. Just my other question is, thanks actually for answering that for me. My other question is actually this regarding the affordable housing that was actually they were actually approved during the time when the development started here in Jersey City, and all as we know that those they have actually an expiration date. So we're talking about families that's in the near future, which is like near future. They're gonna be coming out from those big high rises and coming to the city and requesting what's the city gonna come with as a solution, because they won't be able to afford whatever used to be $1,400 or $2,000 to $3,000 for, I don't know the numbers yet. My question is, why, since we have a piece of land and we know that back in the former administration that all the lands that the city owned was handed over to developers. Since we have actually a piece of land right now, why can't we just develop it as a high rise, and then as soon as we have those people or families that are coming out from that expiration date, and they can possibly have a place to go.
Yeah, so let me answer a couple of things there. One of the aspects of social housing I didn't touch on, but the question is a perfect segue to it. And one of the benefits of the government doing this is we're committed to this affordable housing being permanent forever. Deed restricted, 100% permanent. All the affordable housing that we're seeing built in some of the inclusionary zoning is typically got an expiration date of 30 years. And so if you talk to the people from the county that are responsible for dealing with affordable housing, they're dealing with housing coming offline like you're talking about, as much as they're dealing with trying to provide anything new. Like, oh, this building is coming offline, this building is coming offline. So the housing that we're gonna provide will be permanently affordable. As far as the units that are market rate, look, we're gonna be in control of it. So I don't think we're gonna be as aggressively raising rents as you would see a private developer doing it, right? I know someone from the Heights, who their landlord has just told them that they want to raise rent 110%, 110%, which is extraordinary. His new landlord came in and said they could do that. So look, we're going to be managing the building via an outside entity that does management, from collecting rents and mopping the floors and fixing the elevator if it goes down. But as far as setting rents, there'll be a process to do that, and importantly, accepting proposals from wannabe tenants. So when tenants want to apply, there'll be a process that is tried and proven, and we'll have experts who work on this stuff to make sure that the appropriate applicants are being vetted and are deserving. Next question. With the beard.
And please point the mic towards your mouth. That's good. Very good.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes,
that's
sir.
very good.
So my question's in different parts. The first one is, I know the architect mentioned about 700 units. How many of those would be set for affordable?
So we're still playing with the total number of units and the percentage. So a couple things. I mean, the 700 number is somewhat driven by a state grant that would let you get a sort of a grant on steroids of a substantial amount of money, hundreds of millions of dollars if you hit a 700 threshold. I also think from our preliminary analysis of the market and what you can build there height-wise based upon the area, 700 units is very doable. In other words, it's a hot real estate market. McGinley Square is not is like right on top of the path, but if you look around it, I should probably put this in the slide. There's like 15 new buildings that have gone up. The Beacon's right across the street, which is thriving. So just to hit you on that one. Now, with regard to the percentage, we've committed to saying bare minimum, no doubt 20%. We strive to do more. We would like to think we can do at least 30, maybe with a mixture of some workforce as well into that mix on the additional 10. It's costly to. We're talking about an endeavor here that's going to be hundreds of millions of dollars just for County Plaza, probably, just for County Plaza. So, and part of that is because we're not going to be like certain developers who don't pay their workers an adequate wage. Well, the county executive and the councilman have said, if we're going to be building affordable housing, isn't it proper and fair that we pay the workers who are building the housing enough money so that they can live there? So we're committed to union labor. We're not going to be building a gilded building, but we're not going to be building ugly buildings. So it's important to have the mixture of incomes.
And the second part is, so with the height restrictions, is that due to zoning or funding? Because if going upwards more is going to bring more affordable units, I'm all for it. If it's going to help me keep my neighbors, from moving out of Jersey City, I'm all for going 100 stories if possible. But what are the restrictions on the height that you guys are going by?
So like Jay was saying, we're making the new we are literally here today as part of the process to work with the city to develop a new restriction. So right now the zoning is one of the slides showed how some of the lots are zoned industrial, some of them are for 2-family houses, some of them are for 5-story buildings, and it's a mishmash of antiquated zoning. Some of it's governed by a redevelopment plan that said it would expire after 49 years, and the plan was passed like 51 years ago. So there's essentially no zoning there. So we're going to make the zoning. We could say 1 million feet tall, theoretically, right? If the city said that's the right thing to do, and we decided that's the right thing to do. We want to do a combination of scale for what's appropriate for sensitivity as making a neighborhood. Some of that could be tall, potentially very tall. But as far as your, we're not really limiting ourselves based upon zoning because we're making the zoning. The height does matter in cost to the extent you can go. I think the typical rule of thumb amongst developers and people in building here in Jersey City will tell you, once you start hitting like 11, 12 stories, you tend to have to use different materials like steel and stuff, and it
Over
becomes
six.
more expensive. And six, and it depends, different thresholds have different costs associated with them. So, you have another one?
Yeah, the last part of my question is, right now, that property houses a lot of very important county offices.
Yeah.
Will that stay in the area? So a lot of people come there and they.
100%. Yeah, no, that's definitely not. I mean, when the county executive was the chief of staff, maybe going back to when you were deputy chief of staff, when Bill Gaughan was still around, the county and the county executive, to Jesus' credit, did something very innovative. He bought an old pharmaceutical building, converted it into really good office space where over 1,000 county workers provide crucial, important services from welfare applications and interfacing, Medicaid, the Board of Elections, Department of Work, not going anywhere.
Talking about the parking lots that are
Yeah,
adjacent to
we're talking about, and as Joe said, who's working with us on this, we're talking about building on the parking lots around it. It's like 13 acres altogether there, and so, yeah.
A quick question, if I may.
Of course, please. Talk to the microphone, though.
Point the front of the mic to your mouth. Yeah.
I will.
Thank you.
We're talking about ability, affordability, Jersey City. I like to see Jersey City as a model. I mean, the city's model where we can guarantee 30% of the resident would be affordable, so that we don't play with numbers. We're gonna certain if the project can go on, 30% of resident would be, 30%, 70-30. Like, when
I got it, yeah.
So
We're
this-
thinking something along those lines, too, actually.
I think that would be awesome. At least we are representing those who are really, under the margin, those who are on the margin. So if we can keep it 70-30.
Yeah, and within that 30, we're going, and I kind of went over this slide with all those numbers on it relatively fast. Within that 30, right, there will be housing for very low income people as well. So when you say, when affordable housing is anything from 80% of the area median income and below, right? And there's sort of two brackets within it, or three, 50% of it. But then when you start talking about people that are making 30% of the area median income, which is like 20% of the people who live in Hudson County. And this is also working people that are working full-time jobs. And, not all the jobs are paying that much. So they need a place to live too, and we're gonna make sure that a lot of this housing accounts for them. Yes, hi.
Sorry, to add to that point, the idea is for this to be the model for other municipalities in Hudson County and throughout the state, showing what happens when governments work together, because it does require the city to have input. And one of my requirements always, since taking office, has been for the community to have input. And then and you see the timeline on the TVs next to you about the city council has a huge role to play in this. And this is a way to cut through a lot of bureaucratic red tape so we can actually get what matters, which is housing for our residents. And I know it's shocking, but politicians are actually putting some action behind their words. Excellent.
Hi.
Hi. So I recognize that considerations for parking are important, and you guys seem on top of that. In Jersey City, I think 38% of households don't have an automobile. If you look at the Journal Square area, it's 65% of households don't have an automobile. And when you break it down by income, it goes way up beyond that.
You mean lower the income, higher percentage, no automobile?
No automobile. And so, if we're looking at mixed income development, kind of on the edge or periphery of Journal Square, I think it's really important to think about non-automobile owning households and kind of access to transit and all that stuff. So we're just beyond walking distance, maybe for a lot of people, to Journal Square at this site. The 9 buses nearby, but service on that ain't great. So I'm just wondering to what extent you guys are kind of coordinating with New Jersey Transit and kind of thinking about, how transit access to this site might need to be improved or thought about as you're considering development here.
We talked about the shuttle, right?
Exactly.
So as Councilman Zuppa was just saying, a a way to improve transit is actually to build housing and to work with them, as you said. So in many of the projects that I've done over the years, for example, we did a very significant development in a neighborhood that's pretty far from transit in Queens, New York. And when we did it, we worked with the MTA specifically and coordinated with them. And as those housing units are coming online, because we planned 1,500 units there, we extended the bus service, we created a shuttle to the subway. When you have that kind of demand, you can do that sort of thing. Also, there's a real advantage when you have commercial properties there, like you have, County Plaza, and then you have housing. They use parking at different times. It's called dual use, so it's very efficient because people are at County Plaza during the day, and a lot of times folks that live there, might be out with their cars working during the day, those that have cars, right? And then it reverses the other way, where at night, nobody's at County Plaza, but everyone brings their car home. So you actually get to use that space twice instead of once. As Bill was talking about some of the, quote, evils of parking, or the challenges of parking is how I put it. The fact is that a lot of times parking spaces are empty, and they're very, very expensive. Like a structured parking space, I'll just tell you guys, it might be hard to imagine. It costs like $30,000 to build a structured parking space. That's just what it costs. I'm not talking about something fancy. I'm just talking about a regular garage. That's very common. It could even be more than that, right? So I think finding the right way to actually accommodate folks without cars, taking the parking spaces we have and maximizing their potential because they're so expensive, so they could be used by all different kinds of people at different times, so they're used all the time. And then creating, as Councilman Zuppa started to say, like shuttles and connectivity and extending bus service. We've had great success with that on other residential projects that we've done, so we want to encourage that. I think it's a very good point. Thank you.
I got a gentleman in the back there.
I have a couple of questions. I have been hearing about public parking in some areas of the city, like Central Avenue, but for years. Is there anything coming in the next
Well, we're talking about County Plaza. You're talking about, but there's going to be repeat the question again. Central Avenue there.
Public parking. Is that we had
public parking.
Yeah. They have mentioned in Central Avenue that they were going to build.
I don't know what part of Central. Oh, you're talking about Central Avenue going up more into the Heights.
Yes.
Like by the police station. Well, that's a city thing, so not us. I know. And Tom is that's Ward D. So and that was a full administration initiative, and he's no longer around. So I don't know, but I will say this: public parking is something that the Journal Square redevelopment plan, which a couple of our 4 parcels that we're seeking to build on or within, promotes public parking, and on a couple of the parcels we will seek to have a public parking component, but I can't speak to Central Avenue.
Okay, and I have one more question. I don't know if this is this question. In the area of Route 440 and Zip Avenue, is there any affordable housing plan on that area?
Gerard, I think you're referring to the city property that's, someone actually mentioned doing housing there, but that'll be for a different meeting. I'm happy to talk to you afterwards. To answer your question about parking, it goes off of what Chris said. Chris Lamb chairs the Construction and Plan Committee for JSQCA. It was our last question, the question about parking and the residents. So he's fully aware of our issues. So what I want to say to that, and to you, Gerardo, is I think we need to be sensitive to the fact that removing underutilized parking spaces where the county employees park would put a burden on the residents in nearby streets, while balancing the fact that we need to, one, put housing on underutilized lots, but also if we can maximize public parking in the evenings, which is what Jay was saying was about, better using that space. So I'm not sure that anyone up here has the answer to that yet about what it'll look like. But if there's an opportunity for our residents to use the county parking, that's something we're working on.
Okay, and one last thing. In the same area, we got the promise from the previous administration that there was going to be a green area in right next to the Pulaski Skyway. It was going to be called
Skyway Park.
Skyway Park. Yeah. And I mean, they said that they were going to do a memorial to people who died of COVID. And I think they just.
So this is way off topic, nothing to do with what we're talking about tonight. But since I helped create the Skyway Park Conservancy, I'll speak to that for 30 seconds. There there will be, look, we don't know what's going to happen. There's a new administration. The previous administration never finished the park. We should talk afterward, though. There's been a lot of momentum to get this park back underway. Meetings with the EPA, the DEP, because there's some final things to finish on the remediation side. And I know that the Solomon administration would like to finally finish that park. And I think it might not be the trees that Mayor Follette talked about, but there will certainly be some COVID component. But that's way off topic. Let's stick on topic. We got a question from Instagram.
This question is from Lady XMO. How will these buildings contribute to the school tax levy? The district is underfunded due to property tax abatement. It may not have been clear that these are owned by the county, but if you could explain how that would fit in that structure.
Yeah. Well, the Lady XMO, to be determined. As far as I can tell you, my feeling is, as far as new development goes, we've seen not a huge contribution to schools coming from new development in Jersey City, for better or worse. Some of that might be because we don't have the families moving into some of these places that we see. But I can tell you that the overall benefit that's coming from this project is not going to be about school taxes. Frankly, it's going to be about providing sorely needed housing for lower income people, open space, etc.
Good evening. I'm a county employee at Hudson County Plaza. So just to clarify, do you mean when you say unutilized spacing, you just mean in the evening? Because an example, my shift starts at 8:30. I arrive between 7 and 7:30 in the morning just to make sure I get a parking space. For years, we have complained there's not enough parking. People have parked on the street, then of course got tickets. So what was the number that you got where the number for employees who are using the space when we are desperately asking for more spaces?
So what department do you work with?
Welfare.
Welfare, great. So that's good feedback, and maybe we have. Oh, maybe he should be here. Maybe the next meeting we can get him here. But we have a great parking expert who's studying this, and when we say underutilized, basically what we mean by that is we can accomplish the parking for employees on a fraction of the land in a vertical structure versus spreading it out over a parking lot. That's what we mean by underutilized land. We're not saying that the parking spaces are not underutilized. I mean, I think what we're seeing there initially from drones and flyovers is around a little bit less than 600 people parking on the sites that we talked about, not counting that one that's got some sheriff's officers' cars on it, So those are the numbers that we're seeing. And then you have that, Jay talked about that, I think you call it Site 5, we call it the out parcel, which, I don't even know if you know about it. I'm sure you know about it because it's close to where you work, but it's on the other side of the fence, basically. And this site is is good and bad because it's right below the island, so you don't want to just probably go above what the palisade there looking into the island. You can't access it right now because the Port Authority has a gate that limits access, and that's underutilized in that we're using, it's like 3 acres, and we have a salt dome, we park a few school buses, and it's the staging area for some HIA parking. There's a lot of competing demands, what we might want to do out there. Could that be some of the parking for workers and public parking? It's a possible location for some of our DPW facilities, but I mean, we're not saying that it's the parking spaces are not being utilized now. And I appreciate your input there that people you need to get there early to get one. So.
Yes, I had a question. First off, more or less than not a question, but thank you guys for acknowledging, pro-union labor. So with that being said, as far as the workforce housing, that gives us an opportunity to work here and work on the projects. But not only that, experience the vibrant community that Jersey City is turning into. So I just want to thank you all publicly, but also I would like for you to add a park there as well. I know this is in the early stages, but me being a lifelong resident there in that area is really nowhere for kids to play, because I do have two sons, and you don't really see nowhere for kids to play or anything like that. So if I know it's in the early stages, but if you can add that to your plan, that's all I ask.
Well, appreciate the feedback, sir, and that's exactly why we're here tonight. And as we do this, and we're going to answer everyone's questions, but you will see over on the side, for those of you who want to take a few minutes, we're going to ask specifically, what kind of elements you'd like to see. And you saw already when I started this thing, before housing is the mandate, but I started talking about parks and open spaces as a way to kind of create a community with housing around it. And we're going to ask you, do you want playgrounds or dog runs or other elements? Like, what kind of things would you like in a space like that, or seating? So I do appreciate the feedback. I raised my kids in the city, and parks are critical.
Yes, thank you.
And I guess my question is also related to that. I definitely co-sign what the gentleman said. I'm also part of JSQCA, and we're always advocating for more green space because the ward severely lacks it. So
Can you tell everyone what that is?
The Journal Square Community Association.
Being the president, he's being humble.
I succeeded Tom, who used to be the president. But yeah, so we're advocating for like the embankment, Courthouse Park, Bergen Arches, and all the greenery that we could get through this project. And so to follow the gentleman's question, I'm curious about tree canopy and how aggressive we can be with adding more trees or as a component of this project. You mentioned that one of the things you're exploring is how to connect these sites. Can we have literally trees that line up these different sites?
I think that a critical part in building communities, and these are just illustrative, like we said, so these aren't final, but you can see we're actually showing extensive tree canopies. It's critical in a time of climate change. Climate's getting hotter. People are walking. We're encouraging a pedestrian environment. I don't own a car. I learned to drive when I was 14. I don't own a car, and I walk everywhere, and I think it's critical. And take public transportation, that you create a comfortable environment for people to walk, and in a time of climate change, tree canopy is critical. Bill was talking about heat island effect. He showed that picture. Parking lots just generate heat, raise the temperature, and tree-lined streets are what we're going for, as well as open spaces. So we'd love to do that and make that part of the project. And appreciate the feedback.
Thank you. Just have one last question. Just like for me, actually, I've been in Journal Square area for since 1999. And you know what hits me the most, like during COVID time, when I want to just go have a place where I can walk and all. I know there is a Pershing Field, which is not far, but something like nearby, which is like 2 or 3 blocks. So I was a little more excited when we've heard about that the courthouse is going to turn into a park in the near future, hopefully. So we're just looking for, to me, in that neighborhood, I wish that they can have like a place where we can run, for instance, something comparable to what the Pershing Field is offering. Is that something that it can be accommodated, with the plans you have in hands at this point?
If you guys can help me out.
Too much.
I was actually going to turn back over to you. When we first met about this, you showed me a design from Paris about an open plaza where people were running. There was a fountain in between, in the middle, restaurants around the outside. Another thing we lack, in addition to the green space and affordable housing, is the quality retail for our residents, right? So anytime we have an opportunity to build on empty land or underutilized land, we have to start thinking about retail and exercise and other opportunities to get out there in the open. So again, it's not my project, but given the inputs in our ward, I would say, of course, yes. And for Fitz, we'll take Skyway, Courthouse Park, we'll take every park right in Ward C.
100%.
Okay, and then maybe we can start to go around and write some things down on these papers too, but we have a question coming, and we can have another one after that too, but eventually.
What is the process for letting people know that they can apply for these affordable housing? Because you never, what is the, how's that going to be worked out? Do you know?
So hopefully that won't be in the too distant future. We have an aggressive timeline, right? But we're kind of a bit of a distance away from that. So once these buildings are up and running, our goal is, via competitive procurement process to bring in a high-quality manager to run the building. I mean, the Hudson County Improvement Authority has a lot of statutory abilities to do things, but we don't have the county government anywhere. I don't think has the wherewithal to manage housing. Even housing authorities that were created to run low-income housing are starting to offload some of that to private people. Having said that, one of the things we're going to make sure that we bring in from that type of manager, not only that it's a quality entity that will keep the place clean and in repairs, is to we're going to have somebody help us publicize this so that people know, and then vet it so that only worthy people, income-wise, are getting it. So the exact details are to be determined, but I hear you, and we have to make sure that people know about it, right here in Hudson County.
Sometimes applications, there's hundreds, nobody, and you didn't hear about it, and so, the whole process is done, you really don't hear about things.
So the city has a portal. My two staff members, Arjumon, raise your hand, and Lukman, these two in front of you, they'll take your information down. They'll walk you through using the portal for currently available affordable housing units.
And also, I know it's a little bit off. It's a little bit off that the Montgomery Gardens, those what are they, the projects over there, they've been vacant for a long time. Is there any plans for those?
So usually my video shows you, my slide, I showed the Montgomery Gardens, and a lot of them were imploded, blown up. There's a couple standing. One is occupied and been renovated for senior citizen housing. Then Michael's, there is some low-rise housing there, and the Housing Authority of Jersey City has been sort of not really active in doing anything about the other site. I mean, there's been talk about doing stuff over the years, but I haven't heard anything of late. All right, so we head over to the, and we can keep on talking informally on the sidelines here and take a look at some of these boards that we have, so you can put down information. Jay, why don't you speak to that? Close it out.
Yeah, so anybody, we'd really welcome you to come up and talk with us. As Bill said, we've got a whole bunch of things over here, and if people want to just write stuff down, if people want to put Post-its or stickers on any of these, you're going to see some questions, like even asking what kind of things you would like in each area. So over here in particular is a good one at the very back. I want to point that one out for you, where it shows like you can actually put stickers there or vote for things or circle them. Like, what do you want in an open space? What do you want in retail? So we'd love to get your feedback. And if any of you have further questions or just want to talk, I'd rather not talk at you. I'd rather talk with you and see what other input you guys have. So thank you. And we encourage you to stick around a little bit. And thank you very much for your feedback. At the beginning of this process, we have a long way to go. It's already been a really great start.
Commissioner,
You're right.
Thank you.